Hey SPED 2010 students, I hope you had a great week. We just finished up behavior for week 7 and 8. This week we're going to be working in week 9. We are going to be working on learners who have ASD or autism spectrum disorder. So our objective this week is really for you to identify learning factors that influence the ability to learn. If you're talking about a student specifically with disabilities or that has special needs. So this is really going to cover a lot of our course outcomes. So I kind of wanted to go over an overview of what we're going to be doing this week. So this week you will be looking at Chapter 9 in your textbook, Exceptional Learners. Now Chapter 9 in this textbook gives you a lot of information on autism spectrum disorder or ASD. So it's really going to give you the history of autism. It's going to give you information on how do professionals actually define what an autism spectrum disorder is, what's the prevalence. It looks at what causes or what they think causes or what research says causes autism spectrum. We're going to be looking at really methods that they use and how they are going to identify those who have autism spectrum disorder. And then we're going to look at some of the characteristics, behavioral characteristics of those who have autism. We're also going to be looking at some educational considerations that you in the classroom really need to think about if you have students who have ASD. So how can you assess students who have this disability? And then what do you need to do to help these learners in the classroom? And the last thing really is going to look at how do educators help students transition into adulthood if they have autism. So really Chapter 9 is a wealth of information, so I really want you to read Chapter 9 in your Exceptional Learners textbook. It's going to really go along with the content this week. I do have a Nearpod lesson under presentation, so make sure you look at that. I also wanted you to complete an IRIS module. Now this IRIS module is going to be how I'm going to assess you because this will be one of your assignments. Now IRIS modules are a wonderful resource because not only do you gain an insight into the content, but it's also going to allow you to test yourself and quiz to see if you really understand the content itself. So that is how you're going to be assessed this week. You also have some key words and concepts here that I want you to look at, like for instance, autism. I want you to look at Asperger's, defining the instruments that they use to assess or to define that the student has this disorder. So if we're looking in the resources for week 9, you're going to see resources page, which I talked about. If you scroll down into assignments, this is where I told you you will have your assignment and how I will assess you. Something else that I wanted to note as well is if you look here, there is a service learning journal that is due on March 26th. So for those of you that have already been involved and you started participating in your service learning hours, please be mindful that the service learning journal is due. Also, any of your closing documents, which would include where you completed your log for your hours, where the supervising teacher will sign off, and this also will include the evaluation that your supervising teacher completed on you. Just make sure that they email it to me instead of you just submitting it to Dropbox. Excuse me. So let me go ahead and open up one of the resources that you have here. So if you go to resources, you're going to see a resource called Autism Speaks. So if you click on it, it's going to take you to the Autism Speaks webpage, which is wonderful because not only does it define autism, but it gives you resources like signs of autism, if you're just now being diagnosed. So it's really a wonderful resource, not only for parents, but you as an educator or future educator, so that way you can get to know all about autism and how you can support the parents and the children in your classroom. So I really want you to look at that. Also under week 9, you have your IRIS module. So in the IRIS module, it's really going to dive really deeply into what you as an educator needs to know about children who have autism. So just make sure that you go through this module, and as you go through each page, it's going to talk to you about, like first section, of course, is going to be your overview of what you should know as an educator. Also, it's going to talk about like specific strategies about how you can make sure the children are getting the learning content and how you present it to them. And it looks at different age levels throughout, like early childhood. It'll look at elementary and secondary, which is high school. Then it's going to really give you some resources to actually help you. So the assessment component, or what you're going to be doing and turning into me for a grade, is you're going to go, when you get finished with the module, you'll go to the assessment component. There are actually 6 questions here that you're going to answer. So what I want you to do is I want you to copy the questions and paste them in a Word document. Now these questions are really just going back on the evidence-based practices that you learned about in the module. So I want you to answer these questions and then paste the questions and answers into a Word document. So if you'll notice, there are, let me draw your attention to number 3. There is a video here. So what you're going to do is watch the video, and you're going to look at evidence-based practices. That's what EBP stands for. Sometimes they refer to them as foundational strategies. And you're going to list the 5 strategic strategies and describe them. And then for each video that you see here, you're going to tell which strategy is being used or which evidence-based practice is being used in this video. And you have 2 videos. So that means you tell me which strategies are being used in those 2 videos. For C, you can copy and paste this table because you're going to have to complete it. So there are 3 scenarios listed in the table, and what I want you to do is you're going to select one strategy to address the student's needs. And then I want you to justify why you selected it. Okay, so make sure you use a different strategy for each child. I don't want the same strategy used for all 3 children. And then for 4, you're really going to look at visual supports, right, and those strategies to address those communication needs for children who have ASD, and you're going to explain how these strategies really address these needs. And then, of course, you're going to discuss the differences between a focus intervention and a comprehensive treatment group. And then lastly, you're going to describe how the different strategies can promote independence, right? So you'll look at these 2 strategies here and tell me how they promote independence. And then you will submit that to Dropbox. So if you'll look, we go back into course tools, if we hit assessments and Dropbox, you're going to see down here, it will say autism, right? And yours may look a little different because this is teacher review. So that's going to be your assignment for week 9. I did notice that when you go into course information and you go back into week 9, I told you in the overview, I just noticed a mistake. It said that there is a Nearpod lesson under presentations. I'll go ahead and put that in. I didn't put it in there for some reason. I'm going to go ahead and put it in there, and I'll email you when it's in there so you'll have it. So you should be able to click in week 9, and then you'll see a section called presentations. And that's where the Nearpod presentation will be. And that presentation is going to be specifically on autism, and it goes along with what you're doing this week. So that will be listed in there. I know it's not showing it right now while I'm making this video, but it will be in there for you on Monday when you start the lesson for week 9. All right, guys, that's all I have for you. Your assignment, of course, is going to be completing the IRIS module and then the 6 assessment questions that go along with the IRIS module. So you will submit that to Dropbox. All right, that's all I have for you. I hope you have a great week. As always, please do not hesitate to reach out, okay? All right, guys, until next time, take care.